So who we are, I'm Karis, I'm Managing Director of Investment 2020. And Investment 2020 is an investment management initiative that is all about widening our gene pool at grassroots level, and it's about accessing young people from a diversity of different backgrounds, because our industry desperately does need that to start changing at the entry point, and be able to genuinely unleash talent from a much wider pool and spectrum of the UK talent, because I don't think we've been doing that very successfully in the past. Now, I find myself in social situations, whether personal or professional, and people say to me, but when I explain what I do about creating greater opportunity for young people to access investment management, and the question that is asked, actually it's not that uncommon, is why do you promote greater opportunity to access industry when surely the graduate programs within investment management must be totally inundated with applicants? And for me, the answer is really quite simple. Participation needs to be widened and not simply increased. So we were founded by the industry 5 years ago, recognizing when it comes to sourcing and recruiting our talent, our industry simply wasn't making best use of the pool that was out there. And like many industries, established routes into investment management had been developed that very much privilege academic success well above any other accomplishment. And the difficulty when you do that, when you start looking at academic pathways, you land up overlooking a very rich pool of diverse, capable, and willing young people that sit outside of Oxbridge and Russell Group universities, and effectively leave this talent pool untapped, underutilized, and in my opinion, undervalued. Yet it is widely accepted that collective business success depends on our ability to maximize potential from all and not simply from the talents of a minority. So when I can't take credit for having started Investment 2020, our co-founder, Andrew Formica, who's the CEO of Janus Henderson, for him what was a concern is he looked at his senior pool within his business, and it's fair to say that the majority of them are white men over 40. Doesn't sound very diverse, does it? However, they were more diverse than the young graduates who were coming in through his program. And that for him was an alarm bell. I don't need to sell for you the importance of ensuring that you have diversity of thought around the table, because that is the lifeblood, certainly for investment management. But his worry is that some of the recruitment tools that were being put in place landed up stifling the very diversity that we are looking to inject. And that looking at his senior team, that their backgrounds, many of them did not go to university. Those who did go to university didn't necessarily go to universities that we regard as ones that we should be recruiting from. They came from different faculty backgrounds, and they had their own personal stories, which were quite rich in diversity. Yet we weren't seeing that coming through. And the graduates that were coming through, all brilliant. I mean, really brilliant people. And I'd go as far as to say, for some of them, your classic overachiever. And there's definitely a place for them within the industry. But how do you select one from the other when the difference is so small and that they're quite homogenous? And many of these young people, they come from backgrounds who have parents who are in the industry. They come from very good universities. They come from very good schools, private education, many of them. And actually, we need to be able to create that opportunity, just as that video, which I think was incredibly eloquent and powerful, to ensure that we have a level playing field so that we can ensure that we are able to genuinely access the talent. Because I do believe those people who are on the front line, who were left on the front line, probably outrun those people who were much further along and close to the goalpost. So, while there has been a huge amount of appetite from the industry and from C-suite to drive seeking change, the tried and tested recruitment strategies can be an issue. And when we look at what those strategies are, often we look at, I spoke about academic pathways, we look at grades. The industry does tend to favor graduates above school leavers. When it looks at graduates, it looks at the type of university, the faculty, and of course what people call relevant work experience. I do challenge you to ask yourselves, what is relevant work experience? Because in my opinion, all work experience is relevant. The skills you learn are essential. I look back on my own career and I think about my time working as a waitress. I mean, it doesn't sound very smart. It wasn't in a smart institution in financial services, yet it is incredible what I learned and being able to manage myself in really quite a high-pressured environment. So we at Investment 2020, we've stripped all of that away because we don't believe that these are barometers of future potential. But what they are inhibitors of access. And as soon as you put them in place, you make it that much harder for those people who were still left on the starting line to be able to run the race and to be able to win the race. But of course, when you move away from your tried and tested recruitment strategies, effectively your safety blanket is removed and you have a risk. And what is important, because we all work within businesses and run businesses, is how do you take away the risk away from the business so that the business is comfortable being able to make these changes? And the way we've gone about it is, firstly, looking at school leavers and graduates and opening up the opportunity. It's not about deciding which firms can decide if they already have graduate programs that they only want school leavers. But I'll put it this way. In my life, I have no one pair of shoes that takes me to every single event. And equally within a firm, I look at talent exactly the same way. There should be no one entry point which is intended to feed all of your talent within your business. You need to diversify it and create different opportunities for people at different stages of their lives to be able to access your firm. And that's not just looking at the entry point. To help take away the risk, we have created a one-year program. So it's a one-year program that doesn't guarantee a job at the end of it. Yet there is the expectation that the firm will offer a permanent job if the person is working out. And the reason why, if you can look at this as almost like an extended one-year work experience, is that the person that you get at the end, you actually know who you're getting, and they know you, because it works both ways. It's very difficult when you don't have access to an industry to decide what it is that you ultimately want to do. It's like kind of going to a Japanese restaurant and you have no idea the difference between sushi and tempura, but you've got to make a decision what you're going to eat. You probably like them both, but it does help if you've been able to see it and experience it. So this is not about being a rotational graduate program, which is, I think, can be sometimes quite difficult for HR teams to be able to manage. It requires landing planes because you've got to put people in the right department at the right time and manage expectations. This way, the person gets to develop skills, knowledge, and experience that they need in order to be able to do the job. And at the end of the year, they can decide, is this an area they want to stay in, or do they want to move elsewhere within the business? For us, success is that 75% of our trainees, 1,200 trainees to date, across 36 different investment management firms, have been offered a permanent position. So that is working. Another area I think is really important to mention is looking at the headcount and looking at the business, who pays for it. If I go back to what Andrew said when he started the program at Janus Henderson, when he asked his team of business leaders who'd like a trainee with no experience, and we're not looking at grades and work experience, we all thought he was slightly crazy. Why would they put their hand up and pay for the person? So he said, I'm going to make it simple. I'm going to pay for them. They're going to come out of a central pot, and that way you're effectively getting yourself a free headcount. You're giving someone a chance, but I guarantee you at the end of it, you're going to be pretty impressed. And they were. And so it works. And that is the model that many of the firms have chosen to keep as they go forward, because it helps take the risk away from the business. Now, I've got here youth research. So I think what's very important is when you're looking at how do you go about reaching young people who are furthest from the industry, from low socioeconomic and low participation backgrounds, I think it's really important that you actually understand what they think of your industry. So because there it's about know your customers, simply put. So what we did is last year we went out and we looked at 1,500 young people across the UK, and we looked at a broad spectrum of socioeconomic backgrounds, looked at gender and ethnic groups, and we really wanted to find out what it is, what was their perception of investment management, if at all, and is this an industry that has positive connotations and brands that they relate to? And also, what is their perception in terms of how do you actually break into the industry? And I think some of these insights are going to be very helpful to all of you, because we looked at it from a financial services spectrum, because we didn't want to make the assumption that they knew what investment management was. So it's applicable to many. And what we found is that just under half said they didn't want to work within financial services, and that negative perceptions about culture really fueled their ideas that this wasn't an industry that they wanted to work within. And words that were commonly associated are stressful and complicated, and words least associated are honest, enjoyable, and fun. Now, hopefully, all of you enjoy your work, so we know that there's quite a big job to be done in order to be able to share that message with young people out there that they too can access our industry and want to be part of it. There is also a perception that our industry lacks social purpose. Now, I find this really worrying because, how many of you really, really enjoy your job just because you feel like you've been developed and you're paid well? You've actually got to believe in what you do. You've got to believe that there is a value and purpose to what you're doing so that you're proud of where you work. And I think that without that, it can only take you so far within what you do. And highly productive people all feel that level of passion. I feel that investment management industry has an incredible story to tell in terms of our social purpose. It's an easy story to tell, but clearly this is a story that is not being articulated. And I think this, to me, is core. If I look at the outreach that we do with young people, this is a core message that we have. And I really do urge those of you, when you're thinking about reaching out to young people, especially those who are further from the industry, making sure that you're able to articulate as an industry and not just as a firm, what is it you do that has an impact on society. We also found that a third of young people who don't want to work within financial services have a fear that they're not going to fit in and that financial services doesn't welcome difference. Now, I have to have a little bit of sympathy with this in terms of how we speak about our industry and how we articulate ourselves, and perhaps this is food for thought. And I think this is about more than just ensuring that you've got the right faces in front of your brochures. It's actually looking much more about what are the messages that you tell about your firm and about your industry. Despite the important role that investment management plays within the wider economy, it is worrying, certainly for us, that we are rock bottom when it comes to awareness and understanding within financial services. So for Aon, the insurers in the room, you'll be pleased to know, I believe that you are on the top in terms of awareness, but we're right at the bottom. But nonetheless, I still think that overall as a financial services, there is a lack of understanding. And then the final piece of research that I would like to share with you is that I've thrown in here about specific to investment management, that understanding of pensions, very worryingly, which we all know is so incredibly important to absolutely everybody, is really comes second to mums and dads and granny and grandpas, comes from bad press news stories. And I'm sure we can find a more valuable and accurate source of information than coming from the news. But the final stat I want to share with you is that you're all paying the levy, the apprenticeship levy, and you all would like to be able to make best use of it and provide opportunity for young people. Yet only 9% of those believe that they can access financial services through an apprenticeship. So what it shows is a fundamental mismatch between what is the supply and what is the perception of that supply. And we need to be able to bridge that gap. So these are all important insights, and they definitely need addressing. And I really do believe that knowledge is an important lever for change, and that providing careers information that is clear, that is accurate, and very importantly, age appropriate, creates those fundamental building blocks that helps would-be recruits make informed decisions about their career. Whether they are school leavers, whether they're graduates, whether they come from traditional universities, whether they come from non-traditional universities. This information really helps break down misconceptions, and it helps facilitate access. What we do at Investment 2020, and I know many of you do as well, is we are passionate about shining a spotlight on the areas the city recruiters tend not to go, looking at schools, looking at colleges, and also looking at new universities. And when it comes to school and college, the reason why I believe this is quite important is because it's not just about looking at school leaver and apprenticeship opportunities that you're looking at filling. It's about looking at young people before they've made decisions about where they ultimately want to be. Because if they do transition and want to go into university, the chances of them finding you and finding your industry are drastically reduced. So I think making sure that you are out there in the school and college, and this can be done in many different ways. You can team up with organizations, with charities who do this, or if you feel slightly that's not part of your budget, this is something you can easily roll out as a firm by looking at who are the local school and colleges, who are those who are in low participation, low socioeconomic backgrounds, and rolling out a strategy within your firm so that you reach the school and colleges so that you can put your industry in front of them, so they can see that industry of choice. We find that really effective, that you can use it as an opportunity for the young people who join your industry to become ambassadors, which I think is highly effective, not just in terms of building talent pipeline, but also in terms of building your own skills, your public speaking skills. There's no getting away from it. Everybody's going to have to be able to do that. It also fills your CSR requirements, and it also does make some very good communication and press news stories. And we find that very effectively. So over the course of last year, we ran over 100 face-to-face careers and insight events, primarily putting the industry first. I would like to share with you when we look at, do we feel that what we're doing as an industry is making a difference? And stats only tell you part of the picture, they're not all of it, but they do give you quite a powerful snapshot. And when we look at, of our trainees, that 88% of them are from state school background, and that a high percentage of them are first in their family to go to university. And also we have over 40% BAME, Black, Asian, and minority ethnic groups. And there is quite a strong correlation between when we're talking about social mobility and when we are looking at BAME. That for me, these stats really do indicate that the work that we've been doing is having an impact on the young people who are coming in. Of course, this is something that we would like to see broader in terms of the industry over time, but it's not something that's going to be achieved overnight. It's just ensuring that those strategies are put in place and that one continues to do them. What is clear is that there is a lot to be done. And I think with widening participation at the heart of our collective agendas, we can make a difference. But making sure that this is something that is on your board agenda, that it is a strategic objective, and that you continue to seek delivery. And for me, students who come from backgrounds that are further from the industry, they don't lack potential. What they do lack is a view of their horizon. And that is something we are able to help them achieve by providing them with genuine opportunity of real work experience where they can experience value and be appreciated. This is just a snapshot of the firms that we work with who feel that what we do does make a difference to the front line in reaching young people. Thank you very much.